Hi everyone, Colin Shadwell here, back with another video, this time throwing with a beginner. So I've got my oldest daughter here, Nora. She's 5, and it's never too early to start getting these kids interested in throwing on the potter's wheel. When you have young kids like this, it's a great chance for them to try and explore, but you also have to kind of guide them through it here. So what I like to do first is like to get all their hands wet, get all the clay wet, and just have them really kind of feel the clay going around. And then I'll wrap my hands around theirs, making sure I keep one hand on the side and one hand on top. And a lot of times I'll hold the sponge like I have here in my left hand, and I'll kind of squeeze water on it as it spins around so to make sure it stays plenty slick on their hands and it's not rubbing it too hard or trying to grip their hands and rip it off the clay. I'm just gonna. What I try to tell them is just try to keep your hands still. It's the same principles, and I just kind of squeeze their hands and they can kind of see here how filthy their hands get. Nora doesn't like it too much. She likes to stay clean. So again, try to make sure one hand on top, one hand on the side. We're putting pressure down on the top and on from the side as well. You can see the camera shaking here a little bit because my youngest daughter, Elena, is on the camera. She's the camera woman on this one. So here I'll just kind of squeeze her hands in place here to try to get the clay still. And I'll get it pretty close. And once it's close, I just come in here while she's shaking her hands and just kind of do the rest for her because it's difficult. Centering even this small amount of clay is difficult for tiny little hands. So I just try to get it close for her so that she can experience the process as well. All right. Make sure that clay stays nice and wet. Make sure she keeps all that slip on her hands. She shook a lot of it off, but I try to tell her to keep all that slip on your hands. It's good for you. So here I put their hands on the side and then use their two thumbs to make a little indent so we can stick our finger down in. And then once we got it, you can see it's got a little wobble here. Don't worry about getting too centered if you're off by a little bit. It's their first time. And of course, Elena wants to get a better look here. Up, back behind the camera, Elena. And then I'll have them come back in and dive down. If it's such a small piece of clay like this, I usually just have them dive down with their thumbs, and then we get down to the bottom, and then I'll have their thumbs open it up again. As you can see, they made the little donut. I tell them we're going to put our thumbs in and pull them apart. Nope, not fingers. Got to use thumbs. Always try to keep their hands on the side. It's good support. And then pulling those out. So I'm really just pulling her thumbs out. It's really hard, especially since she's standing up. She has nothing to rest her elbows on. I just kind of help pull her out there. So you can see we get a little wobble. And then I just come in here while she's kind of shaking her hands free and just kind of clean that back up a little bit. So a lot of this, again, is just experience. I want them to get time on the wheel, feeling the clay, seeing how you squeeze things, seeing how the clays move, the process, the steps involved into getting something here. So I get it sort of centered back in. Of course, I need to slow my wheel down. We start doing pulls. Let's tell them, okay, can you show me pointer fingers? That's good. Give me one on the inside, one on the outside, and I literally just grab her fingers, and it's just as easy as throwing with your own fingers. You know, you're just putting her fingers inside yours and just doing little pulls here. And of course, she wants to move kind of fast, so you got to try to get them to go nice and slow, starting at the bottom, pulling your way up, nice and smooth. And it's really nice because she has tiny little fingers, and you want to get not a lot of surface contact. You want to have tiny little points that you can pull up with. So her little pointer fingers are good. So she wants to see inside there. Got one finger. Now show me two fingers. Two fingers are really good too because when you have two fingers, you add support. It's not one fingers can be bent really easily, but if you have two fingers, she really wants that clay off her fingers there. Two fingers are better because you can really support the other one. You're still only pulling with one. I only pull with one finger, but I have the second finger next to it to add support, strength. So I'm pulling this clay up just to get it that feeling, that sensation of having clay up above your fingers and pulling that clay up. Elena, camera woman, and she really wants to shake that tripod. What I'm doing now is I just like to come back in and just smooth everything out. There's a lot of bumps and ridges that it's just easier if it's nice and smooth for them here. I keep telling her, you want that stuff. All that stuff that you're wiping off there, all that slip, it's really good for you. So show me those two fingers again. Two fingers. That's good too. Now as she gets bigger, once her hands get bigger, I'll have her start interlocking her thumbs together too. So it's like you're making like a little bird, shadow bird thing. Like, you know, you put your in front of a flashlight and make the shadow of a silhouette of a bird. So you lock those thumbs together, it really becomes a nice tight configuration of your fingers and your hands and your arms working together. You can see we're starting to get a little bowl shape there. And then I'll show her how we use our rib tool to open this guy up to make a nice little, of course I let them always just get that water out of there. Sop that water up out of the bowl. There you go. Make sure your kids have, if you have girls or boys with long hair, they have their hair tied back in a ponytail because that hair goes down in there and they get clay in their hair and they hate that. At least my daughter does. All right, so I'm showing her now how we can use the rib tool to smooth everything out on the inside and to really open this bowl up. I think bowls are really the easiest way to do that because my girls like making little cereal bowls and little candy jars and stuff like that. They're really easy to do. But I'm just showing you here how you can smooth the inside and really use the rib tool to open this up and make a nice little smooth bowl on the inside. It really helps smooth things out and kind of recenter it back up here. And once we have that, I let her use the chamois to round over the rim. So she takes one in each hand and then presses it over the edge to really round over. And I even give it a little squeeze here because this rim is a bit thick. And I just kind of squeeze it with the chamois to thin that rim up just a little bit, just so it's not quite so thick. And once she has that, she's all done. Now once this dries out a little bit, I turn them over for them and I carve the bottom, and then they let to come through and put glaze on them. So if you have a little one, get them on the wheel. Let them try it out. It's a really fun thing for them to try at a young age.